Hello, I am back. My hair looks better. Finals, well, AP finals at my school are now done. So I was thinking, why not we have time to do a book tag? And the one I have chosen is book adaptation tag. So it's basically all about film, TV series adaptations of books. And I have all the questions on my iPad to look down to, and I got books on my bed that I will be showing to you all. And I will be having my May wrap up soon, and so stay tuned for that. But let's get into the questions. Question 1. What is the last book adaptation movie you saw? So the last one I saw was a TV series, and it was Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse, and hopefully this duology will get it, but it's mainly starting out with Shadow and Bone. It's on Netflix, and I watched the first season, and the one thing I was just really excited to see were the crows themselves. Now, it hasn't gotten into this storyline yet. It's still in the Shadow and Bone part of the universe, so we're not there yet, but it will get to this eventually. So it was pretty good, I would say. I haven't read the Shadow and Bone trilogies, trilogy singular, and so I thought that season 1 was okay. The one thing that made it for me was just the crows. So there's that one. Question 2. What book movie are you most excited for? Now for this one, this is also a TV series, and it is the Percy Jackson TV series that will be on Disney+. And I am so excited for this one because we're gonna have Rick Riordan himself. He is going to be screenwriting it, and it's just like, it's a relief because we finally get a good adaptation with these guys. And also with the other series, Heroes of Olympus, there's gonna be that series too. I'm really excited because you had the musical, which was okay. I don't know, I haven't watched it, but it only just looks at the one book. And then you had the movies, which I will be talking about later in this video. So yay, finally we're getting a TV series for this, and I am so excited, and hopefully it's gonna stay with the story this time. Question 3. Which upcoming book movie will you definitely not see? So I had to look on the internet because I was just thinking, like, I don't think there's anything I'm not looking forward to that I know of. So I had to look it up, and it was like nothing that I knew of, and some of the stuff did seem interesting. So I just put a random one, and it was like, it was Always and Forever. I have a picture. Always and Forever for Lara Jean by Jenny Han. Like, I don't care for romances or contemporary romances, but I've heard about the Netflix series based off of the first 2 books. I can't talk. And this is the 3rd one. It's gonna get its own adaptation, and I'm over here just like, I don't care for romance or all that crazy drama. I like to stay away from that. So yeah, not really looking forward to that. Just a random book I picked, I'm just like, not for me. Question 4. Which book movie would you never watch again? Oh ho ho. And that is the Percy Jackson movies. Like I said, I was going to discuss this before, so there are a lot of things that are wrong with it, especially the second one. They only go through there's only movies for the first 2 books, The Lightning Thief and The Sea of Monsters, and it's just, there are no words for how disastrous those movies were. Like, I didn't like where the story went. It went really off the rails, especially in the sequel. Like, they just like, there's no words, but all I can say is just, if you're a fan of Percy Jackson, you haven't seen movies yet, don't. They will piss you off. They made me mad, and I tried watching the first movie again for some weird reason, and it just made me all the more angry. So yeah, I absolutely still love those movies, which is why I talked to the author himself of the books. He hated them just as much. When the author is pissed off at the films, you know they did something wrong. But sometimes just authors can be picky. But that's a whole other topic. Question 5. Is there a movie you saw that made you want to read the book if you hadn't yet? And for this one I have 2 answers. So the first one is Neverending Story, and the second one is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This is actually an entire series, if you don't know about that. So, but this is just one novel. So, I watched the movie first, and it's basically about this boy who finds this book in a library after being chased by bullies, and it's like this cool fantasy world, like any fantasy world you would read. It's a bit like Lord of the Rings, but yeah. And he slowly starts to get sucked into the story himself, and it's really interesting. And so the thing about the movie is that it is really good. I loved it. I personally loved it. But the first movie, it ends off like in the middle of the book, like in the middle of this book. And then you have the sequels to this story, not as good. Don't watch them. Just stick with the first Never-Ending Story movie. Do not watch the other two. Like, there's all these recastings, and then they really just go off the rails with the story. And so I read this entire book. It's really interesting. It's been a few years since I last read it, and I would reread it, but I have so many other books to worry about. But maybe some other time. So that was the first one. And then here's Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and I watched the Tim Burton adaptation of the film, and I did not know going into this book how many changes he had made. And so I had read, like, I think all the first 3 books, and I know Ransom Riggs has made a few more books over the years, but I kind of stopped reading them at this point. And so, like, I read this, and then I go back and watch the movie, and I'm just really annoyed by all the changes that Tim Burton had made in the film adaptation, and now I never want to watch the film again. But yeah, I thought the books were okay. I remember being bored during the second and third one. It all felt so gray and bleak, but that was just my middle school self. I think I was just getting a little bit bored of the story. That must have been it. But anyway, yeah, so I was able to discover like a few stories just from those 2 movies. Now, number 6. Conversely, is there a movie that made you to never want to read the book? And no, not really, but what I put and my answers are on here. I did put like some of the Stephen King films because I think just like watching them was all I needed, because there are some adaptations that are actually really good, and like they're all based off of his books. And just sometimes I just wouldn't really want to read the book after watching the movie, because they don't make me as curious as to what the book may have been like, because I was probably thinking that the movie was well enough and I didn't need to see any of the minor changes. Probably would just stay the same. But that was kind of different with like I read It. There were a lot of changes to that, especially since it's over 1,000 pages long. And then I read Carrie. There were some differences in there, but that was like because my mom had told me that there were differences and I liked the book. But there's just some that are really loyal, and I just don't have to I don't have to go back and read the books. So yeah, that's like the only answer I could think of. Number 7, name an adaptation that has almost nothing to do with the book it's supposedly based on. So I'm yet bringing up again the sequel to Never-Ending Story. So I have never seen the 3rd one, but I've heard like it has just nothing to do with the original source material. Like it's just like it really goes off the rails, and I'm just, you know, writers will do that, and I think there are a lot of movie adaptations out there that may have nothing to do with the books. I just don't know about any of them, but I just do know that this one really just like took the source material, mainly just the title, called it that, and when it's really just their own story. So that's the only one that I know of. Number 8, have you ever left the theater during a movie adaptation because it was so bad? Nope, not yet. It hasn't gotten to that point yet, and but if I were in like they were watching like the Percy Jackson movies in the theater, I probably would have just gotten up and just left, been like Number 9, do you prefer to watch the movie first or read the book first? I like to read the book first because it's like the movie is based off of the book, so the book came first. But sometimes I accidentally watch the movie first and then I have no idea that there's a book, and so I accidentally read the book second. But I prefer reading the book first. It's just like you get to see original source material, see how it is, and then you see the film, and then you can like actually choose from there. And I'm not really explaining this right, but I remember I don't know, I didn't, but yeah, I just like reading the book first. So number 10, how do you feel about movie adaptations that age characters up? So with this one, I would say that it kind of depends on the films. Like, I would say, like, there's positive and negative examples of aging up characters, and where some it's just like, okay, that's fine, where others it's just like, you didn't even have to do that. So a negative example is, again, Percy Jackson, like, in the movies, again. I'm gonna keep on bringing this up as a very negative example, because I don't want something like this to ever happen again, but unfortunately it will. But, so in these abominable Percy Jackson movies, they age the kids up from 11 to 16, and it's like, you didn't have to do that, but they did, just to make it like another angsty teenage romance sort of thing. And here's the thing, Harry Potter, with its films, they started out the kids at 11. Even though they go through so much, kids get hurt. Like, there's a lot of dangerous things that happen. And even in Percy Jackson, they're, like, these kids are legit learning to fight, but you have kids in Harry Potter, like, learning dangerous magic spells that can have really bad side effects, and then you have Lord Voldemort to worry about. Like, all of these issues. And then in Percy Jackson, you have all these creatures and all these gods that you don't want to piss off. So they also deal with a lot of stress and a lot of weight on their shoulders at a very young age. Like, both kids from Harry Potter and Percy Jackson deal with tough stuff at a very young age, but yet for some reason they decide to age them up because they're like, oh no, we're gonna try and add in some romance first. And it's just like, well, shut up. Like, just another reason why I can't wait for the TV series, because hopefully they have the kids at 11 this time. Or look like they're 11. Now, a positive example, and I'm using this from Game of Thrones, and yes, I am 17 and I have watched Game of Thrones, so don't worry about that. But one thing I had learned was that Daenerys in the first book, I think she's like 13 or 14 years old, and all this stuff happens to her. But good thing is, in Game of Thrones, they age her up and they get an older actress to play her. And now that's a really good example, because what happens in Game of Thrones, there's a lot of violent and crazy stuff that happens in Game of Thrones where it's just like, okay, good for you to make that change. And so, yeah, so it really depends on what kind of story and situation the characters are in, whether you should age them up or not. Number 11. Do you get angry when the actors don't look like you thought the characters look? Not really. Sometimes if like I'm really obsessed with a book series and the characters don't look like how I wanted them to, I'm just gonna be so mad. But now most of the time I'm really neutral to how they looked. Unless there's whitewashing involved, that I'm not okay with. That I'm completely not okay with. Yeah, I would say it just kind of depends, but it doesn't really make me mad anymore. Number 12, is there a movie you liked better than its book? So, okay, yet again, I have two for this. So I have, Stardust and Good Omens. Okay, so Stardust is just by Neil Gaiman. Stardust is by both Neil Gaiman and Sir Terry Pratchett. And I would definitely say, like, every time there's an adaptation for Sir Gaiman's books, it's just like, oh my god, it's so much better. And good thing is, you have influence from the author himself, who is open to making the changes. I read Stardust first and finished it, pushed myself through it, and was like, oh, it's alright. And then the movie was free on Netflix, and so I went to go watch it. And I watch it, and then like, when the film ended, I'm just kind of like sitting there just like, I think that was better than the book. And it really was. Like, the story was much more expanded out. The characters were better. The world was more complex than it was in here. And this is also kind of a satire of fairy tales, so it's kind of focusing on that. You have all these cool actors and actresses. You have all these amazing storylines going on. It's just so much better. And then with Good Omens, now the book is good. This is also satire. This is like satire about the apocalypse and like the end of the world. And so like I really liked it. The only problem was these two. This is Aziraphale, he's an angel. This is Crowley, he's a demon. They were not in it as much, and they were like everyone's favorite character, but there just wasn't much of them in the book. So when the miniseries came out, and there's also going to be a season 2, so I'm really happy. And when the series came out, there was more screen time for them. There was more development over their relationship and their head offices, which is heaven and hell, and it just, and like they just kind of changed a few storylines. Even though Terry Pratchett passed away, it still held all the original warmth and tone from the book, even though they made a few big changes. But you know, it needed to happen. This is 31 years old now. Like, it's been 31 years since it's been published, and there have been some good changes, and now there's gonna be a second season. So I'm really happy. And yeah, so just, okay. Now for the last question. 13. Name a book that you would love to see as a movie. So this is mainly gonna be one that is the most recent read I did, and that is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Now this is kind of a retelling of the Iliad, which is like the Battle of Troy. It mainly just, it revolves around Achilles and his lover Patroclus, and it's like, I was able to read this in like a little over a week, and so it was really, really good. And I'm just thinking like this would be an amazing movie. And I honestly love Greek mythology, so anything about Greek mythology would be a great movie as long as it stays with the source material. I'm looking at you, Hercules. I'm looking at you. Yeah, you know how inaccurate you are. Yeah, I would definitely say if this were made into a film, it would be amazing, and also it would just like, it would also be kind of educational because you'd be learning about the Trojan War. I think that's its name. Even I'm uneducated. You learn about the Trojan War, and this also takes place before the Odyssey, so you just be learning about what happens before then. You'll get like, you're gonna get a cameo from Odysseus, and you're gonna even get to learn about Thetis, a saint nymph goddess. She's really interesting. Like, I'm also recommending to read the book, definitely, but also like if this were made into a film, like these would be cool characters that you'd see. So I definitely would love to see this as a movie. And even Miller's book about Circe, even though I haven't read it yet, but I heard that one's also really good. So that's all the questions for the book adaptation tag. And like, I had a lot of fun picking out books for this one. Like, and there was like just a lot of fun things to talk about with each and every one of them. With all of the good movies and TV series I pointed out, please watch them. I think you'll really like them, and please don't watch the Percy Jackson movies. Wait until the TV series comes out. You'll like that one so much better, and you won't be as angry. And yeah, so that's just my message, and my May rabbit will be coming out really soon. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm just glad to look good this time. I have much better hair, finally got a cut, and makeup's actually looking on point this time. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you probably really soon with the wrap up. Goodbye!